Back in 2001, I was going to visit a member of our congregation at his place of work. His name is Jack Allen. Some of you may know Jack. He was running an insurance company called CFR. And hanging on the wall in the lobby when I walked in was this beautiful painting by local artist Pat Gordon. And so I was staring, looking at this beautiful original watercolor painting as Jack came out to greet me, and he said to me, "Marlin, let me tell you the story of this painting." And in about 5 minutes, he described the images in this still life painting, and in doing so, he told me all about his company and its values and what they're about and what they do. And so when I came back from having lunch with him to a staff meeting here at All Souls, I told them about this painting, and I was able to describe what his company was about, and all of the staff immediately said, "We need a painting like that at All Souls." And so with that idea, I approached Pat Gordon, who is also a member here, and asked him about this idea, and with the help of some generous members of our congregation, back in 2001, we had a painting designed, which you see that up on the screen right now, and the original is a beautiful painting out in the foyer. And this is a painting called Simple Gifts 2, T-O-O, and we're going to tell you about it this morning. One of the things that's wonderful about this is after we created this, we shared a presentation similar to the one we're doing this morning, and people bought images of this, and you can find them in Unitarian Universalist churches all over the country and in the homes of folks all over the country. And even one time I went to the headquarters in Boston of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and we saw this painting from our church hanging there. Today, we have all 6 of our choirs, from our youngest cherubs all the way through our adult choirs, who will be singing to help us amplify the meaning of this painting. The first image at the base of this painting is a table. And the table is an antique table from the Revolutionary War period. And it speaks to the fact that this tradition that All Souls comes out of, the Unitarian and the Universalist traditions, began during the early days of the United States, the Revolutionary War period, and in that early time of the early 18th or late 18th century. And this faith tradition is, many people have called it the quintessential American faith, because it's based on the same values that our country is based on. Values like democracy and freedom and justice for all. So here we are evolving just as our nation is evolving, and we have been. And that's why the hymnals that we just sang out of are called a living tradition, because our tradition is living and growing with our times. And as there are discoveries in science, our tradition grows and learns. But the idea is that this table represents those early beginnings, the beginnings of this nation, and the beginnings of this tradition of which All Souls is a part. Our hope is that everybody will feel welcome at the table of All Souls.
So there are 3 books on the table, or there will be in a minute. 3 books on the table. And the first book on the bottom of the pile is the Bible, which represents our roots in the Christian tradition. For 400 years or more, the Bible was the source of revelation and inspiration in our communities and in our congregations, our covenanted communities and congregations, first in Europe and then in the New World. And then along came Ralph Waldo Emerson. And so there is a second book on the pile. Ralph Waldo Emerson was born in 1803, and he was a leading transcendentalist, essayist, and lecturer, not only a Unitarian minister. He had a great influence on religion in this country. Religious thinkers of his time reached beyond Scripture for sources of wisdom and inspiration. They looked at the natural world around them. They started paying attention to science. They started translating sacred scriptures from other lands, including the Bhagavad Gita from the Hindu tradition. And with ideas like the Oversoul, Emerson began exploring his own and people's direct relationship with the divine, with ultimate reality. And so there is a third book on this stack of books, on this Revolutionary Era table. And the top book is the untitled book, full of blank pages, full of possibility, because the future is yet to be written by us, by you. The blank book represents that revelation is still happening, that reality is still being revealed to us, that God, if you will, the God of your understanding, is still speaking in us and through us, so that we, our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, are writing the future of this faith into the blank pages of this book.
Object on the table is a ballot box. It represents democracy. Many people don't know that democracy began on these shores among the settlers in the churches first, in our churches in New England, before our country became a democracy. Democracy was forged in the churches, in the pews like we're in today, and then it became a form of governance for us, so that this congregation continues in that tradition. We elect our ministers, we vote on our lay leaders, we vote on our budgets. We don't have any popes or ecclesiastical bodies telling us what to do and what to believe, but we as a democratic community of people come forward, choose our leaders, and choose our values together. The next object on the table are two hearts. There's two because it's so important to us. They represent love. We say in our covenant every Sunday, love is the spirit of this church. We say often how we strive to love beyond belief. And this idea of loving beyond belief has within it this idea that even though we have many different beliefs, people with many different beliefs that come in and find community here at All Souls, what we see that's beyond those beliefs is a love that all of those beliefs are pointing us towards. And so instead of being divided by our differences in thinking and our differences in believing, we choose to be united in love and in how we act and how we treat one another. And then you'll see on the table the Statue of Liberty. This represents freedom. Freedom has been a core principle in this tradition from the beginning, this idea of freedom to believe, freedom to ask questions, freedom to doubt, freedom not to believe, and all of that kind of freedom. Many people who have come here the first time and they are reminded of a time, I've heard this story over and over, of being kicked out of Sunday school as a kid for asking questions. That's something that never happens in this place. We encourage people's questions, we encourage people's doubts, and we trust that the truth can handle our questions and can handle our doubts. We also see freedom as something that we try to work for in the world. People will often say to me, but Marlon, how do you know when goodness is present? How do you know that God is working in the world, if that's the kind of language that makes sense? And I say to them, in our tradition, we look for where freedom is unfolding. And where we see freedom coming alive in the world, we believe that goodness, or God, if you will, is at work. So this goes back to, in biblical times, Moses leading the Jews out of slavery, or the Christians trying to have the freedom to worship under Roman persecution, or later the scientists trying to have the freedom that the church was trying to stop them from exploring different scientific truths, and that continues through abolition in this country, and the civil rights and women's rights, and all those movements towards freedom is where we can see goodness alive in the world.
Object in this painting are the scales of justice, representing our understanding that where there is too much inequality in a society, democracy and these democratic principles and ideals are threatened. That none of us are free until all of us are free. That we will not live in peace until there truly is justice for all people. So in this congregation, we focus not only on our own transformation, but also on the transformation of the world beyond our walls. We try to do good works with our hands all the days of our lives. We say that love is the spirit and service is our law. Next, we have a gorgeous bouquet of flowers representing the diversity of our members of this congregation and our understanding that this is not a melting pot, that we don't have to sacrifice our individuality or our particularities to come together in this community, that we are different, we look different, we think differently, we speak differently, we come from different places, we express ourselves differently, but all those ethnicities and cultures and colors, all our diversity just makes for a more glorious bouquet, a more glorious community, an example, really, of the world the way we hope it will one day become.
With the sad eyes, don't be discouraged, oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, the darkness inside you makes you feel so small. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show me your true colors, your true colors.
The next object is the water, which is in the vase, which represents the source of life, the spirit of life, God, if you will. I think it is such a perfect symbol in this painting, because water, we can have no life without water. Water is within us. It sustains us. It has no color of its own. It takes the shape of whatever it's in. It reminds us that each religion is in many ways its own attempt and manifestation of a universal truth or universal reality. And this is experienced in different ways, and it's expressed in different ways. And so the water represents that source of life. And the next object is the vase itself, which is the vase representing the church, the place where we come together to be inspired by one another and nourished by the spirit of life and the Spirit of God. And so the clear glass, it represents the clear glass here in our sanctuary. When we sit here for an hour or so on Sunday morning, we have clear glass so that we're looking out at the world, so that we remember our religion is not in here for 1 hour a week. Our religion is out there in the world every hour of every day of our lives, how we bring these values into life and into the world.
Hold in my hand this blue and white vase, which Marlin brought back from present-day Romania. The style of the vase is from an area around the Carpathian Mountains and represents the roots of our tradition that date back to Europe and the time of the Protestant Reformation. There has been a continuous worship in churches in this part of the world, in a part of the world that used to be known as Transylvania, continuous Unitarian services and worship services. And we have a partner church in Enlaca, and the minister from Enlaca will be coming here to Tulsa, Oklahoma in January. So that connection, that meaningful connection that reaches back into the past, our deep roots, we're still connected to those roots. And you'll get to meet that minister and hear her preach this January. And now, after Katie Craig sings one verse of Spirit of Life in Hungarian, we'll join together and sing it in English.
One of the things about our roots in Transylvania, the Hungarian part of the Carpathian Mountains, is that at one point early on when this tradition began in 1568, the king was Unitarian. And so he was the one monarch we've ever had as a Unitarian. We've had a number of U.S. presidents, but only one king. And this was in 1568. His name was John Sigismund. And one of the things that we're really proud of in him is that this was the Protestant Reformation. Catholics and Protestants were killing each other all over Europe. And he created a synod, which was called the Diet of Torda, and we have a picture of that down in the children's wing of the church. This was when the Diet of Torda is when they passed a proclamation of toleration to say that the religions, the Lutherans, the Protestants, the Catholics, and the Unitarians could be living in this part of the Carpathian Mountains in peace together. It was considered the first of its kind in Europe and an important moment. He only lived a few years before he died, and we lost control of that part of Hungary. The next object is in the vase, in that Hungarian vase is a single flower. And we have that single flower to remember, just as much as we come together as a community and we value what we can do together, each one of us is an individual on our own spiritual path, on our own spiritual journey. We walk into this community each week and when we first come, and we're on our own, in a different place on our own journey. And this congregation is committed to helping people from wherever you are to move forward to wherever you need to go, to provide the resources and the love and the support to allow you to grow in your own understanding of truth and God, reality, faith, spirit, by whatever name and in whatever way makes sense to you. And then next, you'll see the object of the falling leaf. It's a green leaf, and it's shining. But the artist, Pat Gordon, made this leaf falling in the air because this leaf represents life. And he wanted us to remember how precious our lives are and how fleeting life is, with the hope that as a reminder that our lives are short, that we would use the life that we've been given to do whatever we can to bring more love and justice and freedom and unity into the world. And finally, there is the leaf that sits on the top of those books. It's a dead oak leaf, which represents our ancestors, those who've come before us, those who've bequeathed to us this tradition, those who have given us our life. All our ancestors go back to many lands all over the world, and we are at this point the culmination of all of their hopes and all of their dreams. We are the stewards of those who came here in many ways or were here when others came. And today, in our times, after all that's happened and all the history and all the hurt and all the division and pain, the wars, that we may be in our times a source of true reconciliation and healing and unity. And so that leaf sits there to remind us we never forget those who've been here with us and who died, those whose shoulders we stand on. They gave us the breath of life. They are our ancestors, and we value them, and we continue to dream as they dreamed before us. As all our choirs come forward and assemble on this chancel for a final song, let us remember that life is full of simple gifts. Some of the gifts are gifts that you can't buy in a store. Gifts like love, gifts like freedom and justice for all, unity and diversity, great gifts of the Spirit and great gifts of this life. On this Thanksgiving week, let us give thanks for the many gifts of this nation, as imperfect as it may be. Let us give thanks for this congregation, as imperfect as it may be. And let us give thanks for our lives, as imperfect as they may be. You are, and they are, a blessing.
Father's love begun.
so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256 or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed.
and be a blessing.